Weekly update for Friday, September 30th. My thanks to the generosity of Mike Sewell autographed copy of Norman Mailer's Of a Fire on the Moon, his book about the Apollo landing in 1969. I'm going to read a bit of it here for you. If one took into account that besides radio and all other electromagnetic transmissions, there were also transmissions of nature to be recognized in the antenna and signal makers of insects, and half recognized in the whiskers of cats, the homing instincts of birds, the wheeling of schools of fish, the God knows what of bacteria and viruses adapting at high speed to antibiotics, which would kill them. If one stretches credulity so far as to permit some astral plane or marketplace in sleep, where the souls of the living and or the dead could speak. Well, what a devil of a soup of numberless messages careening in all directions of the universe. What a bath of meanings, never glimpsed in every molecule of breath, to pass each tree in the forest of the nostrils of the nose. What a small glimpse in the static of all the lost messages which snarl at the passage of favored communications. The wonder is that radio works at all, and not that there are other messages transmitted by other means, which are sufficiently close in kind to distort reception. Any man who lived with a radio was an unspoken student of the psychology of machines, and so was likely to believe, even if he would confess it only on a torture rack, that coming so near to the moon, that incomparable dish antenna of the stars, 5-billion-year-old instrument of universes back of universes, who was to think that the radio would not act up, who was ready to swear his life was so clean that if he were a NASA notable, seated in that room at mission control, he did not have to hold his breath, for space held no curses, and he had violated no taboo, nor intervening message. They held their breath. The moon was coming ever nearer. The power descent was begun from 8.5 miles up. It was begun. And who had not thoughts at that instant of the inexplicable? Did Collins in his command module, now advancing at greater and greater distance ahead of Eagle, now off alone on 30 hours of continuing orbit before he would ever see them again, if he ever did? Did Collins think of the night before the launch when a violent thunderstorm had struck the plains south of Houston and an old oak on his front lawn had been uprooted? Was it lightning or deluges of rain? Good cheer for Collins that he had no savage mind. And Cernan at Mission Control or Armstrong in the Eagle, did they think of that mysterious and still unexplained moment when the lunar module of Apollo 10, just 13 miles above the moon, went against all the controls of its systems, automatic, when it took off on its own flight plan, and Cernan, surprised to the seat of his meat, gave vent to a curse all audible over the mass media of America? Son of a bitch, Cernan had cried out. And indeed the LEM had had its moment of acting like a child of passion. Or did Armstrong think of the night before when the LEM had tried to point to the moon, boxed in their bulky pressure suits, tied in and swaddled like Eskimo children in baskets, all moves bulky, always in fear of wrapping a bank of switches with the insensitive surface of their suits? You're so clumsy and there's so much force required to move inside the suit, Aldrin had said, that everything is wham. I could bump right into you, and maybe I wouldn't know it. Constrained in vision, they began their powered descent. The motors of the descent stage were fired. Once again they braked. Once again the reduction of their speed began to bring them down from high velocity to low. Now they came below the orbital parameter of 50,000 feet. They were committed. They would land, or they would crash, or they would abort and return to Columbia, but they would not try it again. Okay, we'll leave you with that. We might read some more of these for you. Norman Mailer's Of a Fire on the Moon. And I hope to see a bunch of you again next week.